So recently, I've made a video talking about the criticism that Dracthyr have received from the customization to their appearance, only 2 specs, as well as some of the lore. However, the community hasn't just spread the hate for the sake of hate, but people have literally started creating their own concepts of the newly introduced race. Some have just photoshopped the concept in order to improve it a bit, some drew completely new concepts, and it even went as far as an art director from other games that have nothing to do with Blizzard creating their own version of the Dracthyr. So let us examine some of the most notable artworks from the community and how the Dracthyr could be improved from the visual side. Before we continue with the video, I'd like to talk about something really unique: Bitverse. This isn't just a game, but a universe composed of several games that revolve around the characters known as the Bit Heroes, available for iOS, Android, and web browsers right now. In fact, Bit Heroes, the retro pixel RPG, is the centerpiece of the Bitverse, exclusive NFT characters that have unique traits and perks that can be customized that you can use across the various games in the Bitverse. But there are also the Bit Heroes Arena, Bit Hero Runner, and other titles that are yet to come as the universe is ever expanding. While you can check out the game directly, of course, Bitverse isn't just a game, but a big community with a dedicated Discord server that you can follow about upcoming events such as an NFT pre-sale coming on the 23rd of June. So make sure to check out my link in the description below, join the Discord server, and get a bite of fun with Bitverse. So, to start off, I'd say my personal opinion of the Dracthyr is kinda neutral, although when I see these community modifications, I'd say I'd much rather play that than what is officially coming in Dragonflight, the Blizzard design. While the Dracthyr evokers have been met with quite a bit of criticism from the fact that they only have 2 specs to their lore, the majority of the criticism has been in regards to the fact that their humanoid customization is incredibly limited, and to put it simply, they just look way too wimpy and slender. A lot of people have called them Sauroch with wings, said they look like lizard people, and that they can hardly be related to their creator, Neltharion, aka Deathwing. Now, I gotta say, I definitely agree with this, as the quick backstory of this new race is that they were created personally by Deathwing before he went insane in order to battle against the Primalists, the followers of the dragon abomination Galakron. These dragons didn't like the fact that they should serve the Titans, and instead they believe that the dragons are big, dragons are strong, and that they should just rule over Azeroth. As these were powerful beings, Neltharion literally crafted an entire zone to train them, and they were supposedly the elite of the elite. He combined the power of all the Dragonflights with the scrappiness of the mortals in order to combat this ultimate threat. Now, generally, when you imagine a super warrior, a super soldier, it is usually different than the concept that was presented to come in Dragonflight. For example, the demon hunters are super warriors in a way, only made with one purpose: to battle the demonic legion, and you definitely can't call the demon hunters goofy. Those guys are hardcore, they literally plucked out their own eyes and just sinister and scary, while the Dracthyr, I'd say, kinda look like just a random native race you would discover on a new continent. They really don't give off the vibe of elite, dangerous soldiers. This is especially the case because these mixes between dragons and humanoids have existed since forever in Warcraft lore. We had the Dragonkin and the Draconid that the Dragonflights have used as foot soldiers for a really long time, and I gotta say, just on first glance, these guys are a lot scarier and tougher looking than these elite warriors. And keep in mind, the Draconid are literally just random foot soldiers of the Dragonflights. Now, I get what they might be going for here. Dragons are really scary overall, especially the primal ones, so maybe Neltharion wasn't going for the threatening factor, but more of a surprise and flexibility factor, because dragons know how to battle dragons, but maybe they don't know how to fight a mix between dragons and mortals with combined powers. So this was more of a case to making a race that is really versatile and mobile instead of just tough looking soldiers. However, I think a compromise can be made between the two. People have posted in the forums a bunch of different alterations to the original concept, and some of these changes are super subtle, but they make the appearance of the Dracthyr a lot more heroic and attractive to play, while some artists literally just created entire artworks that turned them into a race of their own. Seeing that the Dragonflight Alpha is coming soon more than likely, I doubt they will recreate the entire Dracthyr concept, but maybe some minor visual changes could be possible. So let us examine the artwork that we have from the community and how the Dracthyr could be changed. So the first one is the most subtle, and there are barely any changes, and personally I say this is maybe a bit too subtle, but generally these modifications tend to revolve around the same thing. This user shortened the neck width, made the torso wider, made the feet a tad bit smaller, and ultimately changed the waist to shoulder ratio. I'd say while this is way too subtle, this is the most realistic one that Blizzard could really implement in a single day. The wider shoulders offer a more heroic look, as at the moment the both versions of the female and the male lean more towards the female build. Also, the neck, as with any character, makes a really big difference. I'd say the neck is one of the biggest factors that turns the Dracthyr into a lizard snake-like race, and if they just shorten it and thicken it a bit, they could easily eliminate this problem. Now, the second is very much the same modification, just on a different model, but again, it makes a big difference. Neck shorter and wider, wider chest and waist, and a larger head, which also really reshaped this character. Pretty much the same thing applies to this as the previous design, although I'd say the larger head is also quite important, as really this weird combination of a big waist, small shoulders, long neck, and a small head really give off this goofy appearance that people have attributed to the Dracthyr throughout the entire community. Another thing this user did as well is added armor to them, and I gotta say that would be super cool, although I doubt Blizzard would be able to implement this, especially at this point, as this would probably be way too much work. It isn't just a simple modification. Now, to contrast this, let's go to a bit more absurd ones, and I think this one went a bit too far. This user draw the Dracthyr as really jacked, as in possibly way too much. They look pretty much like flying Draconid, even bigger than the Draconid, which does look a tad bit ridiculous. They really buffed them up, as in they increased their weight like 5 times, made the neck really small and arms really big, which I gotta say, the arms especially look really weird on a dragon. So while this is a completely different side of the spectrum, I gotta say even this design looks more like something of a creation of Militarian than what we currently have. Now, most interesting enough, we have an art director from Paladins that respectfully to Blizzard wanted to create his own version, and I'd say this one out of all of them is the most realistic, the best balance of both worlds, and just something that makes me go like, wow, I'd really love if the Dracthyr looked like this. So he did the similar changes as the first two users, made the shoulders bigger, increasing the shoulder to hip ratio, made the neck smaller, and just this alone makes a big difference. However, he added something more which makes them look even cooler. He made an aggressive, wider jaw, which to me just immediately screams Deathwing. He then changed up the curve of the wings that turned them from just regular wings to really sinister looking ones, and just made the Dracthyr silhouette scary looking, like you would really be scared if you saw the Dracthyr coming towards you. Then he gave the torso a more of a heroic V shape, which is in addition to the shoulder to hip ratio. Additionally, he also gave more volume to the tail, which really turns it into a dragon tail, not a snake tail, and he made the hands and feet a bit larger, which gives them a bit more of a scary appearance. In my opinion, these modifications are best out of all of them, and I'd say they really fix pretty much all the visual complaints that people have given to this newly introduced race. Now, last one I wanted to cover is yet another extreme, but in my opinion, super cool looking and not extreme as the previous extreme. So, an artist literally just drew an entire new concept of the Dracthyr and based them on Vrathian's dragon model. Now, this literally looks like a dragon, a real dragon walking on 2 feet. He pretty much included all the modifications from the previous design, but he also made the legs bigger, arms more realistic, and made the wings really epic looking. While, of course, this is a concept art and not an actual model, I gotta say, definitely looks really cool. This is literally how I would picture a super soldier made by Deathwing. It also has this badass recent look of Deathwing, but the skin color indicates pre-corruption, which overall would just make this entire thing really epic. So ultimately, while some of these designs might appear a bit too extreme and some are too subtle, it would be really cool if Blizzard at least listened to this criticism and made some changes. Personally, I really like the Dracthyr and I'm excited to see how they work out, both gameplay and lore-wise, but some of these modifications would make them a lot more attractive to a lot of players, as we for the first time ever will be playing dragons, so it would really be cool if you could play like literal dragons, like real dragons. I mean, we do have some goofy looking races such as the Vulpera or the Pandaren, but in my opinion, these races make total sense. I'm not opposed to characters looking goofy, but this way I just feel like it fits with the lore and the theme. Now, when you are playing as a super elite soldier made directly by Neltharion, the Earth Warder, aka Deathwing, you would expect something akin to the most recent design I showed and not what they actually gave us. Like, that is at least my opinion. Thank you for watching. Check out the other criticism of the Dracthyr by clicking on the screen, and check out Doronsmovies Academy for videos on real world history. See you next time.